What up, Cagesiders? It's your boy Sean coming from the Bat Cave. I'm here with Geno.
What's up? Why are we yelling?
I don't know because you got on me about not having a proper intro, so I wanted to show off.
So your proper intro is just a scream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What up?
That's what I learned from Matt Roth. Just get louder.
Yes.
How are you, my man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. All right. Been scrounging for news all morning, so I'm glad you had this idea.
Yeah, man. It's a really slow news day, and I like that that's what you named it, the Cageside Live Slow News Day edition.
I did put Submission Sorority in the URL though.
Did you seriously?
Yeah. Guaranteed hits, man.
Oh my God. If you're lying to me, I'm gonna go look now.
Go look.
I want to see. You totally fucking did. He said, "Go look." So proud of myself.
I thought about putting Paige porn, but I didn't. I reeled myself in.
Yeah, porn. Yeah, that's terrible. We don't want to go that far. Not that.
No,
we are in the business of getting hits, but we're not that desperate. I mean, we do okay.
I mean, I put it in the title yesterday for the first article because that's what it was about. I mean, that's why they were scrapping the name. So I didn't feel like that was...
I saw you did an article today. They have a new name already?
They, I don't know if it's official or not. They're calling them, brace yourself, this is super creative. They're calling them Paige, Charlotte, Becky, or PCB.
They're actually...
Yeah, go look at the post. Yeah, there's a poll up where that's what they call them, and that's what they're calling them under the YouTube clip of last night's match. Just PCB.
PCB.
Yep.
That's even worse than all my name suggestions, which is just Becky Lynch and these other two.
Yeah, I think we should go with that. I mean, that's what it's going to end up being.
Becky Lynch and the last kickers, man. What's wrong with that?
I don't know. They're so far up Charlotte's ass with this Ronda Rousey stuff that.
My God, that's what we'll start with. We'll start with that.
Just so you, I mean, that ties into the name thing because where they use the name on WWE.com is a poll for which Divas faction would Ronda Rousey fit in best with.
Okay, none. She would make her own, the DNBs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a new thing now. She's got a shirt. It's funny. She's got a shirt that they came out with now. They did an episode of Embedded. The UFC does a Embedded series, which WWE should take. They should do that. WWE's YouTube is massive. They should absolutely, and they kind of do this. They call it like diary stuff like that, but they should really follow along with like leading up to SummerSlam. Put a camera with Brock, put a camera with Undertaker, follow them around, cut some video up. That would be fascinating. I would love to see that kind of stuff, and not kayfabe.
They did the one for Brian last year, right? That was sort of it was half kayfabe, half not, kind of.
Yeah, and they turned it into the whole documentary,
awesome.
And it was fantastic. So do more stuff like that. They should take a note from that. But in this Embedded, there's an episode where she says she's not a DNB, which stands for Do Nothing Bitch. So I guess now they're making it like a body image thing. And she's got a shirt out now that says, "Don't be a DNB." And it's got a woman sitting on a bed. And it's hilarious because Dana White tweets and she's like, she's helping people with body image. But the woman sitting on the bed in the shirt is in impeccable shape.
Right.
Who normal people, again, do not look like this. So you're giving people body image issues. Don't be a DNB, right? So encouraging, health and fitness and exercise, get up and all that stuff. That's fine. But then, you put, the model on the shirt. I don't know if it's Ronda or not. I didn't really look hard enough, but it's just it's a woman who has a perfect body, perfect by the standards set by, society and whatever.
Right.
So, yeah. But no, she would not fit in anywhere.
And it's got Kevin Dunn's favorite word, bitch, in it. So.
Yeah. They don't say it on the shirt, but DNB. Yeah. So, no, Charlotte. So back to Charlotte. So I'm watching SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And they do the video for her. And they've done this for Sasha. And they did this for Becky. Yep. And now it's Charlotte's turn. And Charlotte has this batshit crazy aspiration that she's one day going to main event WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of our most popular stories on the site today. Charlotte saying, "I will main event WrestleMania." No, you won't ever. That will never happen. Like, and not reach for the stars, right? You know, like right. I want, you know, that's great. And hopefully the women get a fair shake. Hopefully they get enough of a chance to succeed. Hopefully there's not, if they're doing well, like Ronda, to push them, to get behind them, to be like, okay, this is actually a huge star. We're not going to like job them out, or, you know, the usual tricks that WWE would use to snuff out a hot act just because they don't want them to be hot, which happens probably a lot more than people want to think.
Right.
Even if she had that support, think of this. This is what I put in the post too. Ronda Rousey, WrestleMania is the biggest event of the year for WWE. Okay. Ronda Rousey, when she fights on a card with another title fight, she's the co-main event every time.
Right.
They're talking about going to Dallas for a UFC show later this year. Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. Ronda Rousey versus Miesha Tate. You know what the main event's going to be?
McGregor Aldo.
Not Ronda Rousey. Even though she's probably a bigger star. So there's still that sort of, you know, and people are like, you ask and they go, well, which one's the main event? And they go, well, obviously it's Aldo McGregor. Why? They don't have a good answer.
Well, my answer to that would partly be the same thing you were saying is, and this ties into what we were talking about last time with Piper, is that she's fighting Miesha Tate again. Who gives a shit? She needs competition. Then maybe, I still don't think she'd main event over McGregor at AT&T Stadium, but she might main event something else where there's a lightweight fight on the card. But nobody gives. I mean, everybody, we're tuning in now to see how quickly she finishes people. Not to
what if it was Cyborg?
I don't think Dana would waste Rousey Cyborg on the same card as anything else. I think he would headline with that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And that's probably the biggest. Those two fights, Aldo McGregor and Rousey Cyborg, are probably the two biggest fights they could possibly make. But if they were on the same card, I still don't think they would have
You're
Rousey.
Right. I agree with you. Yeah.
So it's, you know, Charlotte's out. Look at Ronda Rousey, you know, and it's like, yeah, look at her. She main events the small shows that turn into big shows. I mean, UFC 190 apparently did 1 million buys. That's early indicators, but around 1 million buys, that's insane. The only shows WWE could do that could come up with those kind of numbers are WrestleManias. And even then, you know, and I think Meltzer said domestically it did better than any WrestleMania of all time in North America, except for maybe WrestleMania 17, which was the biggest WrestleMania ever. And this is Rousey against, again, latest can.
Yep.
Like no one. So, but the Divas Revolution is so early. It's still so
impossible to tell.
Yeah. They're not main event. They're not even main eventing a SmackDown.
Right.
Someone asked, was soliciting questions for this. Someone asked, how do we feel about the general state of NXT? And I'll give you that question. The state of NXT at the moment. That's a good segue because, you know, the women were called up and they've got all these, you know, they're seeing stars, and someone did the post and showed that they're getting a lot more time. Mm-hmm. So they're being featured. But what does it mean for NXT, and how do you feel about NXT right now?
I spent most of my day yesterday like arguing about this in the comments underneath my reactions. It's weird. I don't know. I mean, it's not the show that everybody fell in love with a year ago. It's not. I mean, they don't, and it probably never will be again because they're never going to have this crop of like everybody's favorite indie wrestlers on the same card with great feuds, and also be like under Vince's radar, because you can tell, you can watch now and you can see sort of there's more of an influence. They sort of book it more like a main roster show. There's a lot of 50-50 booking. I mean, one of the things people used to love about it is that wins and losses always felt like they mattered. They don't really anymore. The latest example is a new tag team, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, the Mechanics. They upset Enzo and Big Cass a couple weeks ago. They come back last night or Wednesday night, and they got beat by Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley. So it's the same kind of 50-50 crap we see on the main roster all of a sudden. So they're definitely trying to transition to establishing Finn as the champ and getting past this Owens feud and getting past Brooklyn and seeing what happens next. I don't know, but I don't. The answer is they got to figure out what they want to be, because they're not as good as they used to be. They're still trying to develop people, but they're also trying to sell out 18,000 seat venues.
It's working.
Yeah, and they've got one thing that they're really smart with is they've convinced a lot of people that this is their indie. Like you can't, it's hard to badmouth NXT because people will get pissed off, and they've got people chanting NXT instead of ECW at arenas now. So they've marketed it to us, to the internet wrestling fan, to the smart, whatever you want to call us, and a lot of people feel really attached to it. So they've, I mean, I think it's a brilliant like case study in how to sell something, how to create your own competition. So that you're making all the money. Yeah.
It's a lesson in branding. Yep. You're right. They've replaced the ECW chants with NXT.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
It's really smart, but it's not as entertaining a show right now. And I think they're trying to get the tag team to replace the women's division as like its marquee thing, because they've called up a lot of teams and they're trying to get everybody wins to establish everybody, knowing that they're going to have to take some time to set up the next wave of women that they've signed. And we'll see if they do it. They're in a weird place.
Well, there's a couple factors. Dusty died.
Yeah.
That's a big loss, right? He was
heavily
involved in everything. And I mean, obviously once he died, pretty much everyone that was there credited him with just as much as, if not more than Triple H.
Yeah.
For their development and who they would ultimately become and how good they would be. Itami's hurt.
Yep.
Sami Zayn is hurt.
Yep.
Owens has been called up. They've had the call-ups and whatever, but there's a lot of those people are still working.
They're still using all those guys, so I don't really buy the call-ups as an excuse because everybody's still working. Everybody's doing double duty now. All the women are.
I was going to say, if they just exclusively put the women on the main roster, what would that leave for NXT? Not a lot.
Eva Marie, your girl.
My girl, yeah. Who could just go out to the ring and stand there, and I'd be happy.
But apparently she's on the fast track, just like I was,
She is the Lana push. Apparently, that's the rumor. The Observer tells us that the push that was going to go to Lana that was stalled for whatever reason, and maybe it's that Ziggler got hurt, maybe it's that they just because they change their mind every week.
Mm-hmm.
Vince changes his mind every week. That they decided, well, not her, and now it's Eva's time to come up.
Yeah, maybe it's because they booked it horribly and they ruined her character. Maybe
Lana?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I still think she still gets cheers. I don't know. I guess it's just Vince's fickle. I don't know.
Well, her progression has been domineering, basically that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Domineering.
Manager character. Yeah.
Who just was ruthless and wanted to take over, and that became vulnerable once Rusev started to not have the same success, and that became victim, and then became independent, right? Kind of, and then became a bit of a dick, rubbing it in with Ziggler. And then now it's back to being sort of independent, stand up for yourself kind of thing. That's not that bad though, right? I mean,
no, it's not. I mean, but look at how many different it would be. I think people could stick with her story more if she went from this to this to this, not this to this to this to this to this. You know what I mean?
Well, what would you have done?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is you don't turn her into like the abused girlfriend character for a little while. I wouldn't have put her with Ziggler. I don't think they had very much chemistry. I don't think that pairing makes a lot of sense.
They have no chemistry. They are so awkward on screen together.
If I had the book, I probably would have turned the Rusev and Lana face together.
I was talking about this with someone. I can't wait. I really hope that the ultimate plan is to bring them back together, and I hope they do it at WrestleMania. I hope they treat this like Macho Elizabeth. I really hope that it's like Rusev's being, because there's no doubt about it. Like we talk, he's the baby face and that. There's no doubt that he's being a dickhead. Like he's an asshole.
Yeah, right.
And he's abusive and controlling. And even if he's not physically abusive, he's still emotionally, keeps calling her.
They've definitely made him that now, the cold fish stuff.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, throwing a fish at her and just trying generally to be a piece of trash, making his new girlfriend dress like her, all that kind of stuff. I really hope that there comes some point where he like starts to turn it around, and he learns and he grows as a person, right? Because I mean, everyone's capable of that.
Mm-hmm.
And he realizes his mistakes, but he's still with Summer. And like Lana sees him realizing his mistakes, sees him growing, and they do have that history and they do have that love for each other and all this. And like at some point, Summer doesn't, she's evil, right? So she's not on board with the growth.
Right.
And I would even be totally good with it if they ran back basically the exact same angle where they just go, Rusev fully turns to babyface at WrestleMania in whatever match, and Summer turns on him, starts beating the shit out of him, and then Lana runs in to save him, and then they have the moment where they come back together. I really, really, really want that to happen.
That works for me.
I just don't see any reason not to do it. And then that could jumpstart him as the babyface, and she's back with him because I mean she's not going to be a wrestler, right?
Right, and that's what was always weird about her push is. How much are you going to use her? How big of a valet role is she going to have?
Yeah, and if the idea is, well, and Elizabeth was
true,
and those are the stories you have to tell if you have that person.
Right.
She's not going to wrestle, but you have to do the story where, okay, you broke up because he was an asshole, but I mean, he's, he might be an asshole, but he's also a guy, a human, and humans are capable of growth. So you just have him grow, and then you can bring them back together, and that's a good story. That'd be great. I'd much rather that than fucking Brock versus Undertaker for the 800th time.
Yeah.
My God.
You don't get to pick, though.
I really don't.
Nope. And I wonder how much of this shift, I mean, like you said, I think it's whoever's fallen in love with this idea of Ronda Rousey's popular, so now we're going to have women badasses. I wonder if Lana's not a casualty of that, too, because she can't wrestle or doesn't wrestle or whatever it is.
Well, it's all of them who have fallen in love with that idea.
Yeah.
When they met her at SummerSlam, and it was, she's great and she's very popular, and I think stuff like UFC 190 is just going to.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were free promotion, just everywhere on social media, and to the point where I almost wonder, not that there's a deal in place, not that there's any. It felt like posturing. Even or positioning, a tactical approach to we want you. You know what I mean? Like like the way you would kind of be towards someone in pursuit of them, as opposed to just, this is how I feel. We're just, hey, we're friends and, support each other, whatever. They want her back.
Yeah, they're courting her.
Yes, they're courting her, and they, the WrestleMania 32. Decals and graphics and that stuff's out, and it's already on the production trucks, and the Rock's front and center.
Yep.
And so the plan at least appears to still be the Rock and Triple H in some form, and they really, 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 really want Rousey, Stephanie McMahon, because it'd be big money.
Yep.
And you know what I'm tired of hearing? I don't want to hear another person tell me that it's unrealistic. Like, I just can't buy that, man. Dude, you bought Stephanie versus Brie Bella? You bought Stephanie versus literally anyone. Like, a mom of 3 in her 40, or almost 40 years old. She's like 38, I guess. Almost 40 years old. 3 kids. Come on.
I'm with you to a certain extent. I mean, I tweeted something about that right after UFC 190 on Saturday night, making a joke about it. I think it all depends on how they build it. I mean, the way they built, I mean, at least you got to do something. Like, she'd have to get in the ring and beat a couple people on the way to Mania. I'm not going to believe that the woman who was like scared of an armbar last March all of a sudden is a legit threat, because that's the way they played it. Like, Rousey clowned her and she was terrified. And
well, of course
you got it. So they've got. I mean, if you do that, yeah. I mean, it's a story. So it's all in how you present it.
There's a lot of fun things you could do with that. I mean, she could recruit the entire Divas division to be, and that's what people are talking about. They're like, well, like Rousey would destroy any of the women in 30 seconds. Well, yeah, but like we hear, that damn numbers game and we get annoyed by it. It's true.
Yeah.
Rousey can armbar Brie Bella and break an arm and breeze out and get kicked in the face by Nikki. I don't care how badass you are. You will not survive a kick to the face. That will knock you the hell out and you're done. It doesn't take much. Really doesn't. Like, we tend to put these people, that's just how we are as a culture. I mean, that's how we are as a people. Celebrities, we just deify these people. We act like they're gods, and we, hyperbole to just an insane degree, where we act like they're so much more than they are. They're human beings. Even the fight that she just won, 34-second knockout. She got punched in the face enough times that she was really marked up. Like, I'm entirely certain that Cyborg would knock her out. I don't think she really wants that fight. I think she loses. But you know what I mean? It's you talk 2, 3 people, 4 people. They'd do that. They would book creatively.
They'd have to. I mean, because if Dana lets her do anything, it's not going to be, taking bumps for free that he's not getting paid for.
Right. It's good business for both of them, but it's also risky business because, as The Rock found out, he did the match with Cena and he tore up his insides. And we don't even talk about why that might be, but your boy, we don't want to allegedly.
It's all genetics and hard
Yes.
work. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's all hard work. He's just such a hard worker and cheat meals.
That's it.
Yeah, man, and it's a risk, but I just don't, especially with the women, I don't know how much of a risk it really is. You bring in 4 of them, they make them, protect her, work safe. They do a beat down on Rousey. She comes back, okay, and destroys whoever it is that was sent for her. And ultimately, the end game is to armbar Stephanie McMahon. Right, that's the whole thing.
Because you're not gonna. There's no way that she's gonna let herself get booked to lose, and you really can't put her over a regular. I mean, like, she can't beat Nikki Bella, who's supposed to be your big badass and who will probably have the record for the longest Divas title reign at that point.
Yes.
So it's got to be Stephanie's got to be the person she takes out. Yeah, I mean, I'm down for the spectacle. I'd kind of rather that they just corner Rock and Triple H and have a little there's a little interaction on the floor where Ronda breaks her arm.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the problem with that, though. It's like, this is also a good test of where does WWE really stand. Chips are down. It's let's say they get Rousey, right?
Okay.
They got Rousey for this year, unannounced, not promoted in any way. Neither was The Rock, mind you.
Nope.
There were rumors, but not promoted in any way, unannounced. I had no fucking clue all the way up to the moment The Rock had walked around and was standing right next to the barricade and looking into the crowd, and the camera hadn't panned yet. I was clueless. And as soon as it panned and it showed Rousey, it was, oh my God, this is immediately one of the biggest moments in WrestleMania history, right? Was clueless the whole way. She was still significantly the most searched for person coming out of WrestleMania by a mile. It wasn't even close. Number 2 was Undertaker. Or no, I think 2 was Taker and 3 was The Rock. Or maybe those 2 were flipped around.
Yeah, I remember doing stories for a month afterwards about what the plans were and when people knew what. And I mean, it was all over the place.
She was the big deal. So let's assume that they get Rousey, that they get a commitment. Let's assume that Dana White allows her to do this. Let's assume that the schedule opens up, that they actually have the ability to book shows. She gets, let's say, a couple Raw appearances, whatever. They do the promotion, all that. Is she the main event?
God.
Divas Revolution, man. Divas Revolution, and she's the biggest star in the UFC.
But she's not a diva. She's not. I don't know that that's good business to put her over. I guess it comes down to
what are you talking about? Why is that not good business? Because
she's not with you long term, so she's going to pop this one number.
Neither's The Rock.
Well, that's a whole different discussion, right? I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that that's part of WWE's ongoing ratings problem is that they pop numbers with these part-time people, and then they can't get anybody to tune in on an average night in May because they know The Rock's not going to be there. They know Ronda Rousey's not going to be there.
So you'll main event with The Rock, who will beat your top star. He'll come to Raw the next day. They'll set up a match for later, and he'll leave for 6 months, and that's perfectly acceptable.
But at least with The Rock, he's not affiliated with a competitor, essentially.
That doesn't matter. I don't know how that matters.
Well, it does matter a little bit because it's free promotion for somebody else.
Okay, but
with Rocky, people look at Rock and they think WWE and movie star. But if they think of any sports entertainment, they think WWE.
Okay, but if that were true, they wouldn't have used her this year to set up for the match.
Well, they didn't know. I mean, yeah,
it's free promotion for them.
But they didn't main event with it, is what I'm saying.
No, but it's free promotion for them. True, right? But that goes both ways. It's still a big deal for you because you're still making. And again, they need to make money. They need the network to be a success. They need to do whatever it is they need to do to get as many subscribers as they can and keep those subscribers. I just don't understand how. Again, you talk about the Divas Revolution. You talk about how we're going to change the way people look at women. If you bring someone in, right? They brought in Mr. T for Wrestle. We can go back as far back as you can go. Who's the biggest star? And you put them in the main event. Mr. T at WrestleMania 1. Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania 9, 11? Which one was it? 11. No, it was 9.
11, I think. Yeah, was
it 11?
I don't know. That's a messed up time. I don't know. But
it was 11. It was 11 because 9 was Bret Hart and Yokozuna.
With
Hogan came out.
With Mr. T, he wasn't out there by himself, though. He was out there with 3 wrestlers.
That's fine.
You're talking about
in the main event.
You're talking
about against Bam Bam Bigelow.
At least against a wrestler, though. You're talking about a part-time, the senior vice president of the company versus somebody else.
They would book it, but they would promote it like
they're going to bill it as.
Yes, Rousey, Stephanie, but then they'll come out and Stephanie will go, "Oh, brought some backup," right? And then she'll have.
But that's a mid-card match, dude. In the history of wrestling, you can't main event with that. You would shit all over that. If Brock Lesnar or John Cena went on before that, come on. There's no way.
She's the star. That's my point, though.
She's a guest star, though. She's not
so
unless
if
she signs a WWE contract, then yes, main event with her. Otherwise, you can't.
So you're good with it if she was actually a WWE, she was a wrestler for WWE.
Yeah, if she signed
a full-on contract,
yes, and then then if we get a female wrestler main eventing, then it will probably be her, maybe against Charlotte. I don't know. There's a lot of ground between here and there, but not now. Not when you're basically just giving free promotion for the Cyborg fight and her.
But aren't you also, when you do this, right? And this shows investment in your own push for the women on your roster.
See, I see it as 2 entirely different things. You're saying your women aren't that big of a star. That's what you're saying. You're telling everybody our women aren't that important. We will.
No, you're saying women are this important.
And you're saying this woman is this important. You're not saying women are. Well, that's 2 different things.
But no, you can do both. You can have both. You can say women are this important, and here's the proof. And then all of those, again, you're in the main event, and all of those women are probably going to play a part in some way or another. And after that, you go, then that's a moment that can be used to build on to treat all of them as legitimate top-level stars.
After Ronda Rousey breaks all their arms?
Well, that's not necessarily what you do.
Well, you have to, though. But I mean, Rousey is not going to sign on for a main event where she loses. There's no way. She's going to be booked to look like a total badass and destroy everybody.
Okay, well, you'd have to get creative with it. But the point is again, you need to, at some point, you have to set a precedent. And I'm sorry, but you don't set a precedent and bury your entire promotion by acting like it's feasible to just say, here's Ric Flair's daughter, and they're fully on board that train now. She's Ric Flair's daughter.
I told you that from when they called him up. That's their pick.
And the hilarious part is their pick is the fucking worst pick of all of them. Like, of anyone that they have on the Divas roster right now, the last person who should be in that spot is Charlotte. Like, that's after as this much time has gone by. Now, obviously, I'm the biggest Becky Lynch mark you'll find. I'm completely in love with Becky Lynch, but she backs it up. She's really, really good at what she does, right? And even Sasha, as much as I'm just not a fan of the mannerisms and the character itself, and just I do without it, she's also really, really good. Nikki, all these are people who need positioning, man, and you have to have a moment. You have to have something to help set the precedent, something to be big enough to build on and you can't do it like they did it in NXT because NXT was always small. The scale is just so much smaller. When you're dealing with WrestleMania, you're dealing with people who are coming in. A lot of these people who just leave for the rest of the year and they come back in and they go, Rousey's who's going to bring them in, not Charlotte, not Sasha Banks, not Becky Lynch.
Oh, I'm not arguing. Yeah, I'm not arguing that you should main event with Charlotte versus Sasha over Ronda Rousey. I just don't think it makes sense to have a schmoz fest as your WrestleMania main event.
I don't.
I don't care if it is Ronda. I mean, I put it on in the middle of the card. It'll draw anyway. You say Ronda Rousey will be at WrestleMania. People are going to watch. It doesn't have to be the main event, and I don't think that not having it be the main event means that you're not pushing women's wrestling.
I'm not saying it means you're not pushing women's wrestling, but at the same time, if we're not going to main event with the biggest combat female star in the fucking world, we're never going to main event with a woman. You're never going to main event with a female.
But you were just saying that Dana won't main event with her.
That's my point.
Right.
That's where it's still people are, there's so much progress that's been made. That's true. There's been so much progress. But when you put 2 title fights on a card, he's always choosing the men's fight to be the headliner. And it's horseshit. Rousey is the bigger star. Every fucking time. Maybe Conor McGregor is getting to the point where he's built himself into just a monster star. But dude, Rousey is a force of nature. She's got so many demographics that yeah.
And if, like I said, if WWE, I mean, if I was Dana, I'd main event with her. But if I was Vince, I wouldn't. I'd put her on in the middle of the card, and I just marked the hell out of the fact that she was going to be there. And the women's revolution thing in MMA or in wrestling isn't that all of a sudden they're going to be above the men. It's just that they're going to get more of a chance. And that's a road we got to go down. We can't just flip the switch and expect them to be main eventing. You got to build the characters and tell the stories and beef up the roster, and then we'll get there.
But I'm saying that's a big moment that could be used as another step in the process. Like women are headlining WrestleMania.
I just don't think they're good. I don't think by 32 you're going to have the story in place that it helps. I think it's going to be something like, here comes Ronda Rousey to beat the crap out of Stephanie McMahon. It's going to be like Brett versus Vince. And people are going to be tuning in to see her get her ass kicked. And that's not a main event. That's not a go-home moment.
Why?
Because you want something suspenseful. You want something that is going to be like Seth Rollins cashing in.
That's not true. What's funny about that is if Rousey has taught us anything, it's that is the exact opposite of what people are willing to pay for and accept. Because there was never.
But you're talking about 2 different things. You're talking about a scripted entertainment versus an unscripted sporting event. Yeah. If I have control over, I mean, if I tuned in, I don't want to see a 5-minute squash as the main event of anything, because I know that you have complete control over everything, and you're going to tell me this awesome, dramatic story with suspense and thrills and everything else. If you spend a year telling me, I mean, I don't want that. I'm not going to pay $50 for that. I will pay, then I would be a UFC fan exclusively if that's what I wanted.
Man, I could not disagree more. And not even that they couldn't do that, or not even that they would do that or should do that, because I agree that I don't think that's the right spot to do that in. But to say that that's not what could draw, that's just not the case. It's just very clearly not the case, and she is the reason.
I'm not saying it would draw short term, though. It doesn't help you at all long term.
But you don't need her to draw long term. Again, like we talked about, she's just coming in for now, and again, she is what's going to help bring the eyeballs in, and it's the main event. And again, this is a big deal. Women are a big deal. That's the message. And I know you're saying, okay, well, it doesn't put Charlotte over. It doesn't put Becky over. You know what? Yes, it does, because it's WWE telling you women are this big of a deal. Pay more attention, get more into their matches, buy more of their merchandise, be more involved in everything that the women do, and then they can deliver more segments with women, more matches, make the Divas tag team titles. They can do all of these things simply because they've brought in this huge star who's going to bring in a gigantic audience just on her back.
Well, here's how you do that. Here's how you do that then. You spend the next 9 months, whatever we got, building Nikki up as this unstoppable badass, and the story is that Rousey has to come in and stop her. And then you put on a real wrestling match that makes people go, holy shit, women's pro wrestling can be awesome, and then you're fine. Then you've done something. If you just decide to just throw Ronda Rousey in the main event against Stephanie McMahon in a squash, or a schmaz or whatever else, you're still promoting Ronda Rousey. You're not saying anything about women's wrestling. You're not giving people the product that they would tune in to see more of, because they know Ronda's not going to be there, and they're not going to want to see somebody beat up Stephanie McMahon in 30 seconds every week.
Well, I don't think that's what they would do, and I'm not even advocating that that's what they should do, that they should just have her come in and beat the shit out of Stephanie McMahon, and then, suddenly everyone's going to want to watch women's wrestling. That's not what I'm saying. Obviously, they would have to get creative with the booking, and, it would run long, and they would have to figure that out. I'm just saying it's worth it.
But you're going to end up with a match like Sting and Triple H this year that everybody's going to shit on afterwards. I mean, nobody's going to want to come back and pay more for that. Even they're going to pay for something because Ronda Rousey was there, and then they're going to be like,
Sting and Triple H was an awesome.
It was fun, but it wasn't a main event.
It was super fun. That's totally something.
But it's not a main event. If that was the last thing that went on, people would be bitching all over the place.
They would, but Sting and Triple H are not the star that Ronda Rousey is. That's what I'm saying too. Is if you bring her on and you don't main event with her,
that's not a good story.
You're sending a message. You don't main event with her. She's a bigger star than she is. Twice the star of anyone on your entire roster. She's twice the star of your top 2 stars combined. And you're going to tell me that you're going to bury her in the mid card, and they would probably fucking do that. They would probably fucking do that. Well, I'm just saying they'd probably put her in the mid card just so they could act like she's not as big a star as she actually is.
No, I don't. Well, if that was the case, I don't think they would have spent the last week fucking saying her name everywhere they could. But the thing, I mean, for me, I think where we're differing is a match against Stephanie is a gimmick match, and you shouldn't main event WrestleMania with that. It's
main event WrestleMania with the biggest draw you can find.
Well, then you should tell the biggest story you can with her, and that's not Stephanie McMahon, and she recruits the roster to stand up to her. That's like a 10 o'clock Raw segment. That's not the WrestleMania main event.
So do a bait and switch. Have her run through Stephanie, and then Stephanie goes, "Oh, well, actually, we signed. You didn't read the contract, and now you actually have to have a real match with the champ, Nikki Bella." And then they have a long, drawn-out good match, and then you get creative with that. I mean, there are so many ways you can go with this. The whole point is that you can figure that shit out. All of that stuff is stuff you can figure out. It doesn't have to be we got a main event with a schmaz, and it's not, whatever. We can't go that way with it. The biggest WrestleMania in history was a schmaz finish. Austin and Rock with Vince McMahon running in chair shots.
There was a long
shit finish.
Too. Yeah, there was a long match.
Well, I shouldn't use that because that led to a massive decline in business.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and I got to get out of here in a minute.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. Yeah, I mean,
this was the topic I guess we needed to get heated over, but I'm just saying.
So, yeah.
This is
sorry, people who wanted us to talk Cena Rollins, but
yeah, sorry,
this is what we disagreed about.
This is what I'll go out on: you're telling people. You're sending a very clear message if you don't do that we, even with the biggest female star in sports, combat sports at least, but one of the biggest female stars in all of sports, we will not headline with her. You're not headlining with anyone on that roster. Not at WrestleMania, not even what are the other shitty Battleground, not a Money in the Bank, none of it. You're not getting a main event. They don't headline SmackDowns with these people.
Right.
Tape shows that no one. They weren't main eventing NXT. Let's not even act like they were main eventing.
They've never main evented a takeover. They've never. No.
Not an NXT. Maybe have they ever main evented an NXT television show?
Yeah, they have a couple.
Okay, a couple and a house show, and they made it a house show in Philly, and they acted like it was the biggest fucking thing that's ever happened in the world.
It takes a long time. Yep.
Yeah. So it's okay. You want to bring in Rousey and you don't put her in the main event? That's the biggest star possible? That's horseshit. That's promotional malpractice is what that is. To steal a phrase from Luke Thomas. You bring her in and you don't use her in the headlining slot and she's going to make you the most money. That's what they're in the business of, ladies and gentlemen. They're not in the business of giving you the best matches you can get. They're not in the business of creating a Divas Revolution. They're not in the business of trying to be philanthropists who just want everyone to feel happy and fucking good inside. They're in the business of making money, and she's the one who makes the most money. And that would show above and beyond how sexist they actually fucking are, because she could make them the most money and they still wouldn't put her in the main event. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can do things, we did the matches and it wouldn't be, you shouldn't book a squash, even though she just completely fucking buried someone in 34 seconds and the whole world thought it was the greatest thing ever. And no one felt ripped off. Literally no human being came out of that and went, I want my fucking money back. They don't do that with Tyson, and they're not doing it with Rousey. And you're telling me you can't do that in pro wrestling? Yes, you can. They did it with Bill Goldberg, who is a huge fucking star. You absolutely can do that. They just don't have it in them to try. And if they ever will, it's by using Ronda Rousey. Now is the time. Get her and do it and headline with her and show that you got it in you. And if you fucking don't, you're going to show exactly how you really feel about all of this and exactly how much bullshit this Divas Revolution actually is. Drop the fucking mic. Cut it.
Geno time has returned, and I will have to deal with it.